The Second Battle of Kursk has now entered its sixth day, and the top officials of the Russian Ministry of Defense have long been burning with anxiety. Currently, at the Russian Ministry of Defense, from Minister Andriy Belis overv all the way down to the deputy ministers, almost all of them have only recently taken office. The recent large-scale appointment of senior personnel may pose certain challenges to the continuity of management and policies at the Ministry of Defense. It means that the entire leadership team needs to undergo a period of running in. Different leaders may have different management styles, work priorities, and decision-making methods, which may initially lead to poor internal communication and collaboration. Such frequent changes at the top may raise concerns about the stability and decision-making ability of the Russian Ministry of Defense, that is to say, since the senior officials of the Russian Ministry of Defense took office and before achieving any significant results, they have encountered tens of thousands of Ukrainian troops invading the Russian mainland and running amok. No matter whether the actions of the Ukrainian troops can achieve their goals in the end, the top of the Russian Ministry of Defense will definitely not tolerate this situation to continue. Under the continuous strict orders, the Russian aerospace forces have finally shown a tough stance. They have begun to use heavy thermobaricide bombs, cluster bombs and cluster warhead missiles to strike the Ukrainian armed forces on the Russian mainland. The latest battle report released by the Russian Ministry of Defense claims that the Russian aerospace forces are firing 500-kilogram thermobaricide bombs at the Ukrainian troops who have captured the town of Suja. This shows Russia's determination and tough measures in military operations, trying to stop the further advance of the Ukrainian army or recapture the lost positions through such powerful weapons in the south of Suja town. A Ukrainian army stronghold consisting of 15 people was discovered. This time, the Russian Su-34 fighter bomber was overkill. It actually launched a 500-kilogram thermobaricide bomb with a power comparable to a tactical nuclear bomb. The mushroom cloud produced by the explosion was as high as 1 kilometer. This place has become a burning purgatory. This 500-kilogram thermobaricide bomb is equipped with a 190-kilogram high-energy incendiary warhead inside, and its killing radius reaches 600 square meters. The huge incendiary warhead and the shock wave generated by the explosion will mercilessly wipe out the existence of all living things. The power of thermobaricide bombs is second only to tactical nuclear weapons. At the moment of explosion, it can burst out a high temperature of up to 2,500 degrees. Anyone whose life is taken by a thermobaricide bomb, their lungs will shrink sharply until they are only the size of a fist, and the air in the human body will be completely drained. If a heavy thermobaricide bomb explodes, the oxygen within hundreds of meters of the explosion core area will be completely sucked dry, and the personnel in this area will be directly evaporated without a trace. The Russian reinforcement troops could not enter smoothly and continue to be attacked by the Ukrainian HIMARS. The made M3001 cluster bombs, each containing 180,000 projectiles, made it impossible for those Russian Ural trucks to pass. The Russian army simply turned the advance path of the Ukrainian army into a burning purgatory by relying on medium and long-range precision strike weapons and thermobaricide bombs. In the last 48 hours, the Russian army is launching intensive long-range precision strike operations, attacking whatever is seen without showing any sign of sparing ammunition. Even near Semenovka in Kursk Oblast, it was discovered that the Ukrainian tank unit was advancing at high speed, and the Russian army had no time to call the K-52 Alligator attack helicopter for support. The Russian army directly launched the Iskander ballistic missile to strike the Ukrainian tank unit that was resting and refueling outside Semenovka village in order to prevent the Ukrainian vanguard from continuing to charge forward. If such actions of the Ukrainian army succeed and occur frequently, it means that there are loopholes in the Russian army's defense line. which may have an impact on the overall situation of the Russia-Ukraine war and weaken the strategic advantage of the Russian army in Kursk Oblast. The Russian Lancet loitering munition and KUB loitering munition successively destroyed the heavy weapons of the Ukrainian army, including a US-made Land LGR-4 rocket launcher installed on a pickup truck. This rocket launcher is capable of firing US-made APKWS laser-guided rockets. Attacks were carried out on the Ukrainian mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles and FV-103 Spartan armored vehicles, and near Cherkasy CHNY village in Kursk Oblast. A Ukrainian T-64V tank that was leading the charge was successfully blown up. The Russian Army's rocket launchers, guided by unmanned aircraft, are also conducting intensive bombardment on the highway to block the rapid interspersed offensive of the Ukrainian Army in the north of the Suja area in Kursk Oblast. A 30-person commando of the Ukrainian Army, riding in 6 armored vehicles and supported by 1 tank, advanced at high speed towards the deep area of the Russian Army. The Russian Northern Army Group launched Lancet loitering munitions for a raid and successfully destroyed 1 T-64V tank and 3 armored vehicles. The Ukrainian army was forced to flee into the nearby woods for concealment. According to the data provided by the Russian Ministry of Defense, during the 5-day battle, the Russian army has successfully killed and wounded up to 1,120 Ukrainian soldiers and destroyed 140 tanks and armored vehicles. This includes 22 tanks, 8 infantry fighting vehicles, 20 armored reconnaissance vehicles, 88 armored transport vehicles and 13 cars at the same time. 1 BM-21 Grad multiple rocket launcher, 2 sets of BUK-M1 anti-aircraft missile launchers, 1 Polish KRAB 155mm self-propelled howitzer, and 5 towed howitzers were also destroyed. Even if the Russian army has to blow up the highways and villages on Russian territory to pieces, it must resolutely contain the offensive of the Ukrainian army, so as to buy precious time for the arrival of the main Russian reinforcements. All Russian residents have been evacuated to clear the firing range. The Russian satellite network has reported that the complete evacuation of residents in the border areas of Kursk Oblast is underway intensively. Currently, 79,000 people have been quickly evacuated to the deep areas of Russia. The Russian army intends to clear the southern region of Kursk Oblast and evacuate all Russian residents in the region, leaving only the Ukrainian attack troops, thus opening up an area for indiscriminate fire strikes. Putin has given an order to withdraw the main combat forces of the Russian army from the front lines of Zaporizhzhia, Kherson, and Donbas to quickly reinforce the Kursk front line, in order to maintain the combat effectiveness of the Russian-Ukrainian front line. The Russian army mainly withdraws the second-line reserve forces of the front-line troops. That is, those reserve forces that have been rotated from the front line for rest and reorganization. The withdrawn Russian troops are carrying heavy equipment including the BM-21 Grad multiple rocket launcher system, D-20 and B-30 122mm and 152mm, towed artillery, T-70 to BV tanks, BMP-3 heavy track combat vehicles, etc., and are advancing to the Kursk Oblast theater via railway. A large number of the reinforced Russian troops come from 9 field brigades, including the 38th Motorized Rifle Brigade and the 64th Motorized Rifle Brigade, withdrawn from the Zaporizhzhia front line. As soon as the Ukrainian army saw the arrival of the 64th Motorized Rifle Brigade of the Russian army, their spirits instantly tensed up. Ukraine has always accused the 64th Motorized Rifle Brigade of the Russian army of killing a large number of Ukrainian civilians in Bache. As soon as they saw the arrival of the 64th Motorized Rifle Brigade of the Russian army, they were really furious, full of malice, and when enemies met, their eyes blazed with particular hatred. They were determined to compete with the 64th Motorized Rifle Brigade of the Russian army on the vast plain of Kursk, this time in Kursk. It is not easy for the Russian army to carry out an encirclement tactic against the Ukrainian army. Although the Ukrainian army is advancing alone deep into the territory, they have already started to build fortifications and prepare for a protracted battle. In fact, in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, this stalemate has already emerged. Both sides are struggling to control key areas and maintain strategic advantages. The offensive actions of the Ukrainian army have influenced the attitude of the Russian public towards the war and weakened domestic support for military operations in Russia. At the same time, the Russian army is also adjusting its tactics, adopting small-scale rapid raid strategies, and effectively accumulating tactical victories. The flexible application of such tactics and the emphasis on logistical support are key factors in achieving advantages in modern warfare. In this stalemate, the logistical support capabilities of both sides, the morale of soldiers, as well as political support at home and abroad have all become important factors determining the direction of the war. The intervention of the international community, whether through economic sanctions, military aid, or diplomatic mediation, may have an impact on the final outcome of the conflict. However, there are many claims regarding the troops committed by the Ukrainian army, ranging from 4 brigades to 10 brigades, and the Russian troops withdrawn are approximately 9 brigades. In terms of troops, both the Russian and Ukrainian sides can be said to be evenly matched. The Russian reinforcement troops include the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade of the Black Sea Fleet withdrawn from Kherson, as well as two paratrooper airborne battalions, the 38th Motorized Rifle Brigade and the 64th Motorized Rifle Brigade withdrawn from the Zaporizhzhia frontline. In addition, there are the 47th Tank Division Combat Group of the 1st Guards Tank Army withdrawn from the Donbas direction, the 138th Motorized Rifle Brigade, the 1009th Motorized Regiment from the northern battlefield of Kharkiv, several motorized regiments belonging to the 44th Army of the Leningrad Military District, and the 488th Motorized Regiment belonging to the 144th Motorized Rifle Division on the Kupiansk battlefield. The Russian troops withdrawn this time are approximately equivalent to the strength of 9 brigades. However, these troops are from various theaters and different units. If Russia does not have an extremely capable general, it is very difficult to effectively integrate so many combat groups withdrawn from different units in a short period of time. The number of capable and battle-tested generals in Russia is limited. Sir Overvyakin, known as the General of Doomsday, has been deposed. Popov, who successfully resisted the counterattack of the Ukrainian army in 2023, was actually imprisoned. Andriy Mordvichev is currently in charge of the offensive in Donbas and is completely unable to spare himself. Even General Lapin has to command the battle in Kharkiv. Judging from the current situation, it is very difficult for the Russian army to expel the Ukrainian army from Kursk Oblast in a short period of time.